We grow many different types of plants and trees, and starting from seed is a fun way to go about it. Oftentimes, it's also the only way to go about it because you can't find them at the nursery. Today, I'm going to be talking about our newest addition to our gardening experience, which is the addition of a dedicated grow area. Normally, we would grow our seedlings in the spring, set them inside the garage, take them out during the day for some sun, and bring them back in. So it's nice to be able to have a dedicated place where we don't have to do that every day, especially when we grow a bunch of seedlings. And I'm going to be talking about this setup if you're interested, and then I'll be talking about the different options for putting together a setup if you're looking to put one together for yourself. First of all, this is something that we're testing out for about 3 months now, and it's being driven by this LED grow light. This is the Mars Hydro SP150 LED grow light. It consists of roughly 133 full spectrum LEDs, and they are on this wafer here. Above the wafer is a heat sink. It looks super bulky and heavy, but it's actually pretty light. So when I took this lamp out of the box, I like when you expect to take something heavy and it's light, your arm flies through the air. Well, that's what happened when I took this out of the box. It's super light. The blades or fins are pretty thin. Above the heatsink is the ballast that converts your AC to DC to drive the LEDs. It doesn't have a fan, which is very nice because you don't have ambient noise from this unit. So if you have it inside your living room, you don't have that noise just driving you nuts sometimes. It comes with a harness to have it to hang your light. We have it looped around the top of the shelf here, and it's hanging from our shelf. We have it set at the manufacturer's recommendation, which is roughly 2 feet above where our plants are. We set it where the 2 feet is from where the top of this pot is. Our plants have gotten much larger now, and they're ready to go outside, so we are happy with this setup, mostly because we don't want to touch it. We don't want to have to put any kind of effort in it. The whole point of this setup is that we just put our plants here, let them grow, and when they're at a certain size, take them outside. So that's the goal of the setup. It's working out well so far. One thing I like to see on this lamp, if it had the ability to have one, is a built-in timer. Plants don't like to be on all the time, so they don't want light all the time because photosynthesis, just like us, they need to sleep. So giving them a break every day for a few hours is necessary for their overall well-being. And to have a timer would be nice, but that's just a minor critique about it. We have an extra piece of this reflective panel from our solar tube installation, so it's helps to reflect some of that light. We want as much of it as possible, even though there's a good amount, because this is 155 watts of light here. There is heat. If you put your hand under here, you can feel warmth from the LEDs. So it's a good amount of energy that's coming down to feed the plants with. The manufacturer also recommends that whatever seedlings you have, you give it amendments of calcium and magnesium. Magnesium is also known as Epsom salt. So we've been making sure that our plants get a good amount. Peppers, they'll let you know when they don't have enough. Their foliage will be a little bit pale and yellow in color. Once they have a adequate amount, they'll have this nice deep sheen, that is green sheen, and it's very, very good to be standing here and looking at them because it makes me happy seeing that they're happy. The other thing that we have in our grow setup is this heat mat. So this is more useful during the cooler months, the months when we're going to be actually using this setup. The heat will help the seeds germinate, especially peppers. And the other thing about this setup is that it's very important to set yourself up for success. So have all the things that you need regularly dedicated to this area. So for instance, we have scissors here. We have that bag of Epsom salt that's there. We have the water. So we use a mister to mist our seedlings. And then also we have this tray here where we'll fill it with water and let it soak up that way. The reason is because you want to set yourself up for success. By having all this stuff here. Sometimes, I come here and I need something, and then I say, oh, I'll get around to it, and it's 5 days later, and then you miss the 4 days that the plants needed that stuff. So for instance, you know, if you miss out on 4 days of feeding it, it's going to lose 4 days of growth. So really important to have all that stuff here. The next thing I want to talk about is your different options for light source. If you're able to swing it, I think the LED grow light is the best value, because for the cost, it will save you a lot of time and effort. But at the same time, not all plants need, not all plants will need something like this type of LED grow light. We did a test with peppers because peppers need a lot of light, and it's a good way to test how well this setup is working. But for certain plants like tomatoes, they're not so demanding. So if you're concentrating on plants like tomatoes or plants that don't need a crazy amount of light like this lamp is putting out, you may want to consider the shop lights. So down here I have an example, which I'll bring it up to the camera here, is an example of a shop light. So that's one area that I researched in, did some research, and you want to find a shop light that is around 5,000 K to 6,000 K in the light output, the type of spectrum. Most shop lights are going to be 4,000 K, so be mindful about that number. From my research, the 5 and 6 is where the wavelength is the ones that are going to make the plants happy. Also watch the wattage. So you want to be mindful about how much wattage you need. There are different types of wattage shop lights. This is a 155 watt unit, so it's good. It's a lot of output. We're expecting come spring to have this shelf full of plants, because it's going to be putting a lot of light, and we're going to be using all of that, and probably then some. So be mindful about your wattage. If you're going to be growing a few plants, then you might be able to get away with, I think they run around 50 watts is my memory. So so there's that. You may have to spend a little effort in getting the harness for your shop light and setting that up. So that might be a consideration for the lower cost in the setup. And if you're super tight, you can build one yourself. This is something that we used in the past. It's basically an old greenhouse part, and we weaved in these LED lights. These are strips that we got from eBay. It's relatively inexpensive. This is the red and blue spectrum. It's not full spectrum, and we used a lot of effort to make this work. So we'll get the seeds to sprout using this, and we'll give it as much light as possible during the nighttime, and then move it around. So it's worked well, and we've just are at a point where we need to grow from it. But if you're starting out and you're like me, a few seasons ago, this might be the way to go. One drawback is that it puts out the red and blue, which gives off this purple light, and you can't really enjoy your plants as much because, as you know, happy plants make us happy, and we like to see that green. And if you're seeing the plant under a purple light, it's not very comfortable, especially when you look away and your eyes have to adjust. So that's one consideration. Go with a shop light or grow light. And the other thing about this setup that I'm very curious about is, since this is full spectrum, I'm expecting that these plants don't need hardening off, especially since they're being grown during our California summer. There's not a big temperature gradient, so I should in theory be able to take these plants outside today after this video, set them in full sun, and they should be just as happy. So that would be nice, just being able to take this from here and set it outside and not worry about hardening off. So once again, that effort, we're trying to minimize our efforts because we're trying to grow more and more each year. Not to be greedy, but to improve on our skill and our efficiency. So we would like to see this filled up come spring with plants, and we're at the point where we need to be mindful about how much effort it takes. So be sure to come back and check on these plants. I plan on doing a pepper video where we walk around and look at how our peppers are doing, and be sure to see how these guys are doing. You may see them in pots outside still, or they may be in the ground, and hopefully they'll be just as happy in here as they are outside. One quick note, if you're in a cool climate, you may need to still harden off your plants temperature wise, so that's something that you might want to consider. So I don't want to tell you that you don't need to harden it off, because in California we have a different climate, so please keep your climate in consideration when looking at all the different options. I don't know if I talked about this already. This is a leftover piece of reflective paneling from our solar tube installation, and it's nice that we're able to use it to reflect back some of that light onto here, so we'll maximize our setup. So you can use foil. I happen to have this leftover material from a couch that they shipped, or they not shipped, but they packaged it in and delivered many years ago, and it's just a nice backdrop just for aesthetic reasoning. But for functionality, you may want to go with aluminum foil or something reflective to get all that light back on here. So yeah, that's our grow light setup. Thanks for your interest in it, and if you have any questions, please feel free to ask me. I'll try my best to answer them in the comments, and until next time, please check back. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the pepper video.